Telephone Time.
The Bell Telephone System welcomes you to Telephone Time with the stories of John Nesbitt.
How do you do, everyone? Vicksburg, Mississippi is famous in the American memory as the place where the stupendous Battle of Vicksburg burst. And as we see by the map of the modern city, it is still surrounded by that battlefield, a place where once men fought to the death against each other. Now, over Vicksburg in 1953, a second battle struck, and this time the adversary was nature versus man. It was struck without warning, first with disaster, and then, of course, with panic. Out of this struggle, a newspaper, the Vicksburg Sunday Post-Herald, emerged with the greatest award in journalism, the Pulitzer Prize. And as it seems interesting to find how a friendly local newspaper could be used as a weapon of defense against a disaster, here is the story. Vicksburg, 5:35 p.m.
The sky over Vicksburg at 1 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, December the 5th, 1953, took its time in disclosing its secret. It began by promising showers, which were fine to cool off the rather warm and humid air, but not so good, of course, for people planning to catch the postseason football game for charity, or the merchants with just 17 more shopping days ahead of them before Christmas. But after all, people in the South know how to work with their climate, and they all know how to enjoy a Saturday, old and young.
Hey, you, Charlie Faulk! Oh, wait a minute.
I gotta hurry, Mr. Belton. I gotta finish delivering these so I can catch the matinee.
Never you mind the matinee.
They got an awful good western at the Sanger.
Now, listen to me. I've warned you before. Stop trying to bust down my door with that newspaper.
How else you gonna know the paper's come?
You can ring my bell twice. It's right there.
Gosh, Mr. Belton, I haven't got time to ring all the bells. I gotta hurry.
You break my door and I'll sue the Post-herald. Tell your daddy that. Yes, and you can tell Mr. Cashman, too.
Miles from Vicksburg, however, the sky became disturbed. And the sky over Vicksburg at 2 p.m. was still, well, call it a sleepy sky. And in a newspaper office Saturday afternoon is pretty good for this kind of thing, because on Saturdays the world's big shots seldom make trouble and you seldom get a headline, which nobody minds very much. In fact, it was a boring afternoon.
Come in, Charles.
Here's the statement you asked for, Mr. Lewis. Wow, looks like rain. I heard attendance at that football game.
I'd hate to see a small crowd tonight. That pocket boy could use the money.
Kid breaks his neck first game of the season, so they run him a benefit. Now, what happens if some kid gets hurt tonight? The thing could go on all year.
Charlie Faulk in there?
Come in, George.
Here's the AP wire from the Bermuda Conference. You think that'll be our lead story in the Sunday edition?
Now, here's George Shupp, who worked with Damon Runyon, and he asked me a question like that.
You're the managing editor. That's one job I never got enough to accept.
Well, you boys battle it out. I'm going to take a little walk over to Washington Street.
Oh? Christmas shopping?
Call it a tactical maneuver. Just trying to forestall my daughter's usual selection of Christmas ties.
The sky over Vicksburg at 2:25 p.m. still couldn't seem to make up its mind whether to shine or to shower. And this is irritating except to durable kids who seem impervious to the weather, don't they? They examine the Christmas window displays before making the matinee at the Sanger Theater, which to a kid, of course, is a couple of hours of heaven. The sky over Vicksburg at 2:40 p.m. looked like it was finally going to clear. About time, too.
afternoon, Mr. Cashman.
Hello, Joe.
Kind of sticky out today.
Yes, looks like we might have a little rain.
Game still going on, Mr. Cashman?
Well, I hope so, Jack.
How about a couple of Annie Oakleys?
Not this game. Everybody pays, even the reporters.
You tend to your business, young fella, and don't be so fresh.
Oh, just kidding, Dad.
I don't know what gets into the youngsters these days.
Oh, Jack's a good boy.
Yes, he is, Mr. Cashman. Big help to me in the store. He's graduating high school next June.
That's fine.
I don't know when. I've seen it this muggy. Had the front door open all day, not a breath of air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can I do for you, Mr. Cashman?
Well, Joe, it's about those Christmas ties my daughter picks out for me. Now, if I could just select a few, and then you could kind of drop a hint when she comes in.
Oh, yes.
The sky over Vicksburg at 5:34 p.m. began to awaken. Yet, not a flag but drooped motionless from its standard. Not a bird's song through the air. It was a sick sky that made a man feel like he had a fever. It did not bear fever, however. It carried death. Vicksburg, 5:35 p.m.
I finished cleaning out the back. What'll I do with them boxes?
Oh, just stack them for the time being, Charlie. Fit the small ones inside the big ones. We may need them later for gift wrapping. Never heard it so quiet. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. Close the front door. Hurry up.
Sure blowing up a breeze.
Dad, I can't close it! I can't close it!
What's that? Sounds like an express train tore loose.
Nature gone insane. It shrieked, they said, like a million lost souls in hell. Yet a block out of its wild path, you could hear no sound, for it swallows up its own bellowing as it moves. It burst in the walls of granite buildings on one street, yet left paper and clapboard shacks untouched just around the corner. And the kids in the Sanger Theater dreamed happily on. And around the newspaper building, 4 blocks away, there was only the knowledge that it had begun to rain. And the clock ticked away the dreary minutes of an afternoon that offered no news worth a 2-column header.
This weather's going to be too good for business.
Yeah, you know, you're a sports writer. You better keep your mind on the game.
Brother, did you check all the kids? Where are the kids?
The kids are home. I just talked to them on the phone. Oh, Charlie, what on earth's happened to you? What's the matter?
What's the matter? What's the matter? The whole town's blown away. The whole town.
Charlie, get a grip on yourself.
You'll be seeing things.
You don't understand.
All right. So we had a little storm.
A little storm? A little storm? The Mississippi hardware's collapsed. Bill Logan with 10 men are trapped inside. Palermo's, the cotton warehouse is on fire. The Sanger Theater.
What about the Sanger Theater?
Well, I heard a fellow say, I didn't see it myself, but this fellow said that
My kid's in that theater.
Oh, Charlie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, what did he say? Tell me.
Collapsed with all the kids inside. Collapsed.
plant. Probably dark all over town.
I kind of expected that. You better dig up some more candles. Black as pitch outside, except for the fire.
Operator! Operator!
Ambulances. You're rolling all night, I expect. All we do after a tornado.
Tornado?
I've been in before. In Iowa and in Kansas, too.
This is terrible. What are we going to do?
Take it easy, son.
Well, you heard what he said. Half the town's blown away. What are we going to do?
We might put out a newspaper.
Our telephone story takes us to Santa Clara County, California. This is San Jose, the county seat, population nearly 127,000 and growing. No one knows this better than the telephone people who put in the equipment to match that growth. For example, here's Les Shields, cable splicer. He knows this district well. He was born here. He's watched it grow. From high on telephone poles, from the ground, and underground. Les is well aware of the problems of his community, especially the need for safe recreation for growing youngsters. He was so active in this work that 17 years ago, his neighbors called on him to serve on the Alum Rock Union District School Board.
To me, there's nothing as important as our young people. The world is getting more complicated every day. We've got to do the best for the youngsters and give them all the schooling possible. The youngsters need places to play, and we've built a lot of playgrounds next to the schools. We keep them open after schools and on Saturdays and provide athletic supervision.
It's been a big job for the school district. Les Shields and his fellow board members have seen the school enrollment grow from 300 in 1940 to 4,500 today. Tom Ryan here is superintendent of the school district.
We don't know of any man more dedicated to the welfare of the youngsters of this community than Les Shields. He's been an inspiration to all of us. Now we've finished a new elementary school, and we thought it ought to be named after one of our finest citizens, Les Shields.
Yes, his neighbors think a lot of Les Shields. And you can be sure telephone people are proud of him, too.
This is Mercy Hospital, the kind of place that the soldiers of the Battle of Vicksburg knew too well, where the maimed and the dying flowed out across the corridors and floors of the hospitals. Sister Mary Noel, superintendent at Mercy Hospital, remembers that here, too, the twisting tornado had passed them by, and they had received 10 dazed and broken bodies before they could learn what it was that had ripped its way through Vicksburg. And Dr. Jarrett, pediatrician, would remember that he was the lone doctor on duty there, and that little 3-year-old Harlan Freed, whose life he had guarded since infancy, would die in his arms.
Joey! Joey! Oh, Joey! Oh, Joey, baby.
The time, Vicksburg, 15 minutes exactly after 5:35 p.m. In catastrophe, the lines of human communication instantly become priceless. They are the lines of life, and those who operate them are in a single moment suddenly enlisted at the heart of a conflict. Dr. Jarrett ran for the exchange, where special supervisor and operators placed themselves under his command, and for 60 minutes they traced every doctor in Vicksburg whom they could reach and summon.
Operator. No use. Maybe this is no time to worry about a newspaper. Maybe this is one time we better get picks and shovels. The people out there buried under the debris. My boy may be among them.
I pray it isn't so, Charlie. And lots of people are praying right now. People who are tortured by wild rumors and terrible doubts. It's our job to get the facts to them.
He's right. People can live up to any facts once they know them. It's not knowing that's the worst thing. That's what causes panic.
Maybe so. But I'm going to what's left of the Sanger Theater and find my boy.
You don't have to, Charlie.
Where did you find him?
He phoned me to take him home. I picked him up at 25 minutes after 5, 10 minutes before it happened.
He phoned you? He generally sits through the feature twice.
It was a rotten picture anyway.
Well, that's one rumor checked off. Let's hope the others turn out as well. Billy, you get a list of the dead and injured from the hospitals. Better start with Mercy Hospital first. And before you go, tell Diggs to take his camera and cover those warehouse fires. Charlie, you better grab a camera and hustle over to Washington Street. That seems to be the hardest hit.
I'm an RH negative. They might need my type of blood. I'd better go to the hospital, too.
I'll see what I can do.
Power's off. All the machines are dead. How do you aim to get out a newspaper?
Our first step is to get the facts. We'll worry about the electric power later. Can't stay off forever.
Somewhere off in the distances now, the tornado is screaming itself to death, while already the surgeons are at work upstairs, 4 of them in 4 operating rooms, 3 of the broken bodies to a room. And here below in the corridors, their light is battery lamp and candle. The elevator stalled and the stretcher bearers toiling up the flights of stairs. And during this night, as many will pass through the door of death, one lusty, healthy baby will be born to enter through the door of life.
You got nothing better to do, Charlie?
More names, dead and missing. At least got lights in this part of town. Most of the place is still without lights. It looks like we're going to get a newspaper out after all.
Thanks, Billy.
Hi, Billy. It's pretty rough.
2 more linotypers have quit. Tommy Groves just got word that his 2-year-old was killed in the Happy Land nursery. They're still digging in the ruins for his wife. Joe went out to help him.
Well, got plenty of pictures. Might have made some enemies getting them.
There's only one hitch. There's no water to develop them. The main water line is burst. But that's not the worst of it. The stereotype furnace is fired by gas. I checked with the gas company. They won't even try to turn it on for 2 more days. Too much danger of fires.
But without the furnace, we got no stereotype plates. We can't put out a paper.
Maybe it's just as well.
What?
Some of my oldest friends. People I've known all their lives. Snuffed out. Young Jack Palermo. We were joking a few hours ago. Nick Casino. Leonard Warren's daughter Kay. The Glatt boy. 2 of the Farnell girls. And the children in the Sanger Theater. Maybe you were right. Maybe we should grab a couple of shovels and join them. Forget the newspaper.
Daddy.
Mary Irene, what are you doing here? Is everything all right at home?
We're all right, Daddy. The family's safe. But I couldn't stay home with all this going on. Daddy, you just can't imagine what's happening. They say that thousands have been killed.
But that's not true.
That's what they're saying. Half the people I meet are too shocked to talk. The others are plain panicky.
Now, Mary Irene, you calm yourself. A terrible thing has happened, but there are no thousands dead.
But they don't know that.
It's early to tell, but I doubt if the total dead will reach 50. It's bad enough, but it's not that bad.
Then tell them. Why don't you tell them?
Send Clyde Beasley in here.
You don't have to yell so loud. I was just coming in to have a little chat.
Clyde, about the stereotype furnace.
I'll tell you about that furnace. It'll work just as good on charcoal as it will on gas.
Charcoal?
I've been through a couple of these mechanical failures before. There's always a way. I sent some men out to rustle up what charcoal they can get.
But Clyde, that furnace is set for gas.
Shucks, Charlie. For me, it's as easy to convert to charcoal as it would be for you to change a flat tire.
How much charcoal will you need, Clyde?
Lots, Mary Irene. That's the rub with everything closed down as it is.
I'll get it.
I believe she will. Well, I better get back and convert that furnace.
Here we are, worried about a little water. And all the water we need is right out there in the streets. Don't you worry about those negatives. I'll wash them in the gutter.
What are we going to do about these ads, Mr. Cashman?
Run them.
In tomorrow's paper? They're not likely to bring in much business.
I didn't say we'd charge for them. I said run them. As a matter of fact, you better get out statements to the advertisers. Mark them no charge.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Cashman, but I don't understand why we should do that.
We've never profited by the misfortunes of others, and we're not going to start now. I want this paper to do something for the people. I want the people to feel that we're getting back to normal. Now, if we put out an edition of the Vicksburg Sunday Post-Herald without ads, they'd think it'd be the end of the world. Well, it isn't the end of the world. Not yet.
Vicksburg, during the long darkness of the night of December 5th and 6th. And in the Post-Herald office, where the daily job had been turning out the friendly columns of social doings, the great news and the small, the sports page and the comic strips, a newspaper must now drive through rumor and panic and record a tragedy in blunt black and white. Men can grapple with disaster, but first they must know its size and its nature. And in later editions, men will begin to think of the $25 million whirled away in the wind. But now they must seek the truth about the neighbors or family they have lost or saved. Unknown hundreds gravely injured, and the death list only beginning for 30,000 people who must know the truth.
Well, that looks all right. Now, when do we get it to the subscribers?
Right now. Do you know every carrier boy's out there waiting? We're not going to miss a single route.
Come on, Dad. We'll be late. The papers are in the car.
Okay, son. Hold your horses. I had to drive the boy around this morning. Some of those folks were pretty sore at us last night.
You know, I think I'll go along, too.
While your city and your neighbors have passed through their anguish, you have attended to business. Your business as a newspaper man.
All right, son, I'll pick you up at the end of the block.
Your neighbors will now judge you by what you have done, that you have been right or you have been wrong.
Well, Charlie, who's our first customer?
Mr. Phelps, he's home here.
Oh, hello, Charlie. Good morning, Mr. Cashman. I sure didn't expect any paper today.
Pa, the paper's here. They're bringing the paper.
Hey, Ed, the paper's come.
Vicksburg, 5:25 a.m., December 6th, 1953.
most important footnote to the story of the Vicksburg Sunday Post-Herald and the part it played in the disaster is something known to every newspaperman. And after this announcement, I would like to bring it to you.
Okay. I'll see you Thursday then. Bye now.
Well, that's settled. Jimmy's out of town, but he just phoned to say he'd be back in time to drive Betty down to her aunt's place at the lake. And now's a good time to call her aunt and tell her when she's arriving. Betty has her phone number handy, too. Make your plans by phone. Long-distance rates are lower weekdays after 6 and all-day Sundays. Call now.
I read somewhere once that the first great job of reporting was done by a man named Pliny, who reported the eruption of Mount Vesuvius and the destruction of Pompeii, and he did that about 2,000 years ago. And since then, down through the centuries, the aim of all reporters has been to be on the spot during a time of life and death and bring the facts to the people as quickly as possible. And that's why we're especially pleased to have with us the publisher of the Sunday Post-Herald of Vicksburg, as he certainly would know exactly what that situation was. And thank you for calling by, Mr. Louis P. Cashman.
I'm very happy to be here, Mr. Nesbitt.
Perhaps as a professional man, you can check that statement of mine that this is the goal of all newspapermen.
It certainly is, Mr. Nesbitt, and I would say that the Pulitzer Prize is the most coveted of all newspaper awards. You see, Mr. Nesbitt, we like our job, and we like the wonderful people of Vicksburg. But I know this, all of the work that was done that night after the tornado, under almost impossible conditions, was justified. Some of our friends lost their children, others lost their homes. We felt that this was a time, above all others, when it was our duty to issue a newspaper. We knew the people of Vicksburg were trusting us to bring them the news, all of the news. And I might add that bringing the news to your readers is the duty of any newspaper.
And it must be the thrill of any newspaperman's lifetime to do the job as well as all of you did it at Vicksburg. And that is why we have tried to offer this as a tribute to all newspapermen everywhere who always stand ready for the big job. And now we're going to have a look at the clues for our story to come. The curious objects strewn here are not very beautiful, as they are deadly bombs, homemade, as it happens, by a gang of schoolboys and meant to be used. Yet this isn't a tale of juvenile crime, but one of the great adventures from the secret world of youth, the gang of honorably violent schoolboys who called themselves the Churchill Club. And until next week, when we'll join you again, this is John Nesbitt wishing a goodbye to you all.
Telephone time next week. Until then, we remain sincerely yours, the Bell Telephone System.